You're wearing them right now. Or you own a pair. Or your favorite photograph with someone you love, someone in that photograph is wearing it. The most recognizable piece of eyewear in human history, every single year, in every country on earth, worth, when the brand changed hands, $640 million. Now let me tell you where they came from. A military airfield in Ohio, February 1920. A biplane climbing through minus 63 degrees air at over 33,000 feet, higher than any human being has ever flown in a powered aircraft. And something goes wrong with the pilot's oxygen supply. He lifts his goggles and the moisture on his eyeballs freezes instantly. He loses consciousness. The plane dives 6 miles towards Earth in 2 minutes flat. He somehow lands the plane half blind. But his vision is never quite the same ever again. The pilot who takes over his altitude program watches all of this happen in front of his eyes. And he carries that image of it, the swollen eyes, the frostbitten face, the inadequacy of every piece of equipment they had sent men into stratosphere wearing. He carries that image for the next 9 years. Until in 1929, he walks into a meeting and proposes a solution. His name was John Arthur Macready. And you've probably never heard of him. Welcome, I'm Arvind, Vijay, Mohan, and today we're about to discuss an object and the man behind that object, and the strange, winding 80-year journey from a frozen pair of eyes over Ohio to the most culturally loaded piece of eyewear ever made. It is also, because my channel doesn't do simple stories, about what happens to a man's legacy when the thing he creates becomes so famous that everyone knows the object and almost no one knows the person behind that object. John Macready is one of the most decorated military pilots in American history, but his name is almost entirely unknown outside specialist aviation circles. And the glasses he created are everywhere. This is the story of both. Searchlight, Nevada, 1887. It is a mining town, lawless, raw, at the edge of the desert. John Macready is born there. He works the mines as a young man, earns his way up to Stanford University. He enlists in the US Army Air Service in 1917. He earns his wings. While serving as a flight instructor at Brooksfield, Texas, he writes the standard instructional text for student pilots in the early years of US military aviation. He's organized, precise, and thoroughly professional. After the war, he's assigned to McCook Field near Dayton, Ohio, the Air Service's primary aircraft testing facility. And there, amongst the most dangerous and pioneering pilots in American history, he becomes the chief test pilot. McCook Field in the early 1920s is the most extraordinary places in the world. It's small, it has no particular glamour. The students and staff are a who's who of early American aerospace. Jimmy Doolittle is there. Lee Wade, who will later fly around the world, is also there. What they're doing every day is going up in aircraft that might kill them, testing the limits of altitude, of endurance, of speed, in an era before ejector seats, before pressurized cabins, before most of the technology that we take for granted today even existed in any form. And the man before Macready on the altitude program is Rudolph Shorty Schroeder, 6'4", somehow nicknamed Shorty. By 1920, Schroeder has been setting and breaking his own altitude records for 2 years continuously, climbing higher and higher in a Packard LePaire biplane fitted with a turbocharger developed by General Electric. February 27, 1920, he pushes the aircraft to 33,114 feet, a new world record. His oxygen supply suddenly fails. His goggles eyes over. He raises them and the minus 63 degree air immediately freezes his eyeballs. He passes out. The plane plunges nearly 6 miles in 2 minutes. At the very last moment, he regains consciousness and pulls out of the dive. He lands almost completely blind. He's hospitalized for several days. He never fully recovers his vision. The altitude program is reassigned now to John Macready. I want you to think about what Macready is inheriting here. He's not stepping into glory. He's stepping into a job that has just nearly blinded his colleague in an open cockpit, in equipment that is known to be inadequate, at altitudes that no human being has ever survived in before, let alone worked in. But he takes the job. Over the next 6 years, Macready makes 50 flights above 30,000 feet. On practically every flight, he encounters some kind of emergency. A supercharger exploding, engine failure, a propeller flying off its shaft. But he keeps going. He sets a new world record at 40,800 feet in 1921. He makes the first non-stop transcontinental flight in May 1923, flying a Fokker T2 from New York to San Diego, 2,470 miles in 26 hours and 50 minutes, with Lieutenant Oakley Kelly. He makes the first crop dusting flights. He participates in the first aerial survey of the United States. And for 3 consecutive years, 1921, 1922, and 1923, he wins the Mackay Trophy. Now, the Mackay Trophy is American aviation's highest annual honor, awarded for the most meritorious flight of the year by a military pilot or organization. It has been given continuously since 1911. Macready is the only person in history to have won it 3 times. No one has matched it since. 3 times in a row, that too. World altitude record, world endurance record, first transcontinental flight, 3 different records, 3 different years, only 1 name. But the records are not what I want to talk about. I want to talk about what he remembered. Because throughout all of it, all the record-breaking flights, all the near misses with propellers and superchargers and engines that quit at 40,000 feet, Macready kept returning to something. The image of Schroeder's eyes, the goggles that fogged, the moment of lifting them, that frozen face, the fact that they sent men to the edge of the atmosphere in equipment that was borrowed from the First World War. In 1929, US Army Air Corps Colonel John A. Macready approaches Bosch & Lomb, a Rochester, New York-based medical equipment manufacturer with deep expertise in optics, and he proposes a collaboration. He wants sunglasses that will reduce the distraction for pilots caused by the intense blue and white hues of the sky. He is also specifically concerned with the fogging problem. Pilots' goggles that cloud over and blind them at high altitude. He wants something lighter, something that doesn't seal around the eye and trap moisture, something that can actually protect a pilot's vision without becoming the thing that takes it away. Bosch & Lomb sets to work. It takes them 7 years. The prototype, created in 1936 and known as the anti-glare, is released. It has plastic frames and green lenses designed to cut out the glare without obscuring vision. On May 7, 1937, Bosch & Lomb takes out the patent. The Aviator is born. They are subsequently redesigned with a metal frame and given a new name. The name is derived from the ability of the glasses to limit the ingress of ultraviolet and infrared rays. Ray-Ban. Ray-Ban. The teardrop shape, the shape that you know well, the one that has been on every famous face for the better part of a century, is chosen specifically to mimic the coverage of pilot goggles, to cover the entire field of vision, to let no light in from any angle whatsoever. The first advertisement describes them simply as providing real scientific glare protection. They're sold as sporting equipment. The word fashion does not appear anywhere. They are a piece of safety technology for pilots, born out of 9 years of carrying the memory of a colleague's frozen eyes. The military takes to them immediately. During World War II, the US Army Air Corps adopts Ray-Ban Aviators as standard issue equipment for all their pilots. And then something happens that Macready could not have predicted. In October 1944, General Douglas MacArthur lands on a beach in the Philippines, and newspaper photographers capture several photographs of him in his aviators. Visuals that become lasting images, iconic images of the Second World War. The photographs spread around the world. Not because of the sunglasses exactly, but because of who's wearing them. Because of what they signify in that moment. Authority, composure, that unshakable confidence of command. The sunglasses are doing something that they were never designed to. They're not just protecting eyes anymore. They're performing. The 1950s see the Wayfarer introduced, a new shape which is bolder, designed not for the cockpit but for the street. James Dean wears them. Miss Audrey Hepburn wears them. And then the 70s arrive and fashion, well, moves on. Ray-Ban finds itself now in a strange position. By 1981, Ray-Ban is selling just 18,000 pairs of Wayfarer sunglasses annually. The brand that once defined cool has become irrelevant. Ray-Ban actually considers discontinuing the Wayfarer from its line completely. What happens next is one of the smartest and strangest marketing decisions in the history of consumer goods. In 1982, Ray-Ban signs a $50,000 per year deal with a product placement agency in Burbank, California. Their job is to place Ray-Bans in movies and television shows. $50,000 a year. Between 1982 and 1987, the brand appears in over 60 films and TV shows annually. And then, in 1983, Tom Cruise puts on a pair of Wayfarers in risky business. Ray-Ban sells 360,000 pair of Wayfarers in one single year, a jump of roughly 2,000%. 3 years later, in 1986, Cruise once again puts on a pair of sunglasses. This time, they're a pair of aviators in Top Gun. Aviator sales rise 40% in 7 months following the film's release. By 1989, Ray-Ban has sold more than 4 million Wayfarers. The brand is back, and it never goes away again. In 1999, Bausch & Lomb sells the Ray-Ban brand to the Italian eyewear conglomerate Luxottica for a reported $640 million. $640 million for a product that began as a safety device, requested by one man, on behalf of the pilots that he'd watched fly half-blind into the upper atmosphere. John Macready leaves the military in 1926. He goes to work as a pilot for Shell Oil Company. He returns to active duty in World War II, serving in North Africa. He lives until 1979. He's 91 years old when he passes. Bausch & Lomb dedicates a special edition line sunglass to him in 1987. A quiet acknowledgement 50 years later. He's in the National Aviation Hall of Fame. He's in the International Aerospace Hall of Fame. He's the only 3-time McCabe Trophy winner in history. His daughter, Miss Sally Wallace, herself a pilot, writes his biography because she wants the world to know the story that her father never told loudly enough. She titles it John Macready, Aviation Pioneer at the Earth's Ceiling. The book is published in 1998. And just like the man it celebrates, you've almost certainly never heard of it. There's a gap. The gap between what a person does and what they receive credit for. John Macready sets records that stand for years. Some know him for his unparalleled flying skills. But that he invented something that ended up on the faces of half the world, that nearly nobody knows. Not really. Not in the way that the thing that he created is known. I wonder if that ever bothered him. There's no record that it did. Everything we have heard about Macready, the flight logs, his daughter's biography, the institutional records, describe a man who was profoundly focused on only the work at hand, on the problem that was in front of him, on what needed to be solved next. He didn't design the sunglasses to become famous. He designed them because his colleagues needed them. Every time you see someone in a pair of aviators, on a film poster, in a photograph, on the street, there is a chain of causation that runs back to a man in an open cockpit over Ohio, in the coldest air a human being had ever breathed, asking himself, how can we do this better? Most don't know his name, but he started it. These are real people. These are real stories. And all of this really happened. My name is Arvind Vijay Mohan, and I'll see you on the next mind-blowing episode.